STR Jiren really does have legitimate EZA potential, just judging from his base kit, which, by the way, he will be receiving his EZA in a little over a day over on JP. So we will be covering the details when they do drop. Hopefully I'm awake for that. But regardless, there is two concepts that I drew up today that I'd love your opinion on, because we know that when it comes to these ECAs, sometimes they end up being bangers and sometimes they end up being mid. So I have a just in case scenario for both of them. I'm going to share with you one concept that I feel like if they're not going to give us too much, they can go that route. Or if they wanted to make him, I'm not going to say the best EZA in the game, but at least, runnable in difficult content, then we'll go with the other route. But let me know what you would like to see for STR Jiren's EZA. Do you think he deserves to be number one? This is definitely one of the EZAs I'm excited about, so let me know what you think. Do you think I guess based off when you look at the kits, if you think I did him justice or not? Let's hop into the video. So first things first, when it comes to his leader skill, I just gave 3 key and 170 for Universe Survival Saga, and then 3 key and 90% for STR. I don't really know what it's going to change to, because at base it's 150 and 50. Like, I pulled up this Boo here, and before EZA he was 150 and 90, so that went to 170 and 120. So for Jiren, it could easily go to 70 and 170, or 170 and 90, or quote unquote best case scenario, because it's not gonna make the craziest difference regardless, but we could see a 170 and a 120 situation. Regardless, again, leader skill not gonna matter too much. Let's go with the not the best case scenario, but the worst case scenario for this Jiren EZA. So for his super attack, I gave him greatly raises defense, causes immense damage to enemy, and greatly lowers attack and defense. So based off his previous super attack stuff here, let me just go and delete this. We looked at, it was just causes immense damage and then greatly lowers defense. So of course I gave him the ability to raise defense as well as lowering attack and defense instead of just defense. So for his passive, I gave him 180% to stats, plus an additional attack plus 30% and medium chance to stun all enemies at the start of turn. So this is the buff he gets just for existing, and then when he enters the turn, this is a guaranteed buff, so it's like an additional 30% on top of the 180. It's essentially 2 different instances of raising his own attack, and then the chance to stun stays at a medium. So it went from 130 to 180, and then extra attack there staying at medium. I think, honestly, like the other concept, I don't keep it at medium, but I think there's a good this effect is so strong that I do expect it to stay at medium, or they could end up increasing it and just make him like one of the best SPR units in the game, right? Because, why wouldn't we want that? Anyways, performs a critical hit on stun enemies. That's essentially the same. Reduces damage received by 30%, and medium chance of performing an additional super attack as the first attacker in a turn when there is another Universe 11 category ally attacking in the same turn. So this is one heavy restriction, but you are getting 30% damage reduction, which, by the way, doesn't seem like the craziest amount. But I will say, when you factor in EZA stats and the 50% defense increase here, plus the greatly raising defense here, plus the chance of launching an additional super attack, which is going to raise your defense even more, like this 30% is going to definitely look pretty good. He's not going to be defending the craziest amount, right? But it's still a decent number when you factor everything else in. It's super restrictive, right? Which I can definitely see them doing. So he has to be in the first slot. You have to have another Universe 11 category ally on the team, and they have to be in the turn. And just for you to understand, this is what the category looks like. And to be completely honest with you, there's probably 3 characters you could even think about running with this Jiren in like difficult content. We have Margarita, Her name is not Margarita, but we call her that. This Topo and this Topo. This Topo, it's kind of iffy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, when he is below, or when you are below 70% HP, the 40% damage reduction, right, is nice. I mean, it's gonna be a little tough, right? Because 40% is just not enough for today's content. So, you know, it is what it is. And this int Topo, actually not really that bad. If you're running more, or I guess 3 or more Universe 11 category allies, we're talking about 2 instances of attack and defense was 110%. Guards all attacks when there's another Universe 11 category ally attacking in the same turn. So let's say you had, let me pull them up here. Let's say you had this guy and these guys together on the turn. This, just from them being together, this unit is guarding, and he is supporting STR Jiren, and STR Jiren in turn is getting that extra damage reduction and chance of launching an additional super attack, which is, of course, is going to make him look a lot better defensively, on top of the support that he's getting here as well. So again, this is not a bad Jiren. It's just like, it's not a great, oh my god, amazing Jiren. You know, this is not like, what, this is not something we're gonna be like, oh my god, you know, this is just another EZA in Dokkan, in my opinion. Again, not bad, but we can do better. And this is this concept here is where I think, I mean, this concept is definitely better than this one, but you know, it has its own drawbacks, I guess. Anyways, so for super attack, I gave him raises attack, greatly raises defense for 1 turn, and causes immense damage and massively lowers attack and defense. So we still keep that greatly raising defense for 1 turn. He is stacking attack infinitely. So, I mean, I think it just makes sense for Jiren. He literally, I don't want to say he got stronger throughout the fight, but he just showcased more of his power throughout the Tournament of Power. So I think it makes sense for him to stack attack. And then for his passive, 3 key and 140%, which of course is a lot worse than 180% here, but the rest of his kit will make sense. Let's go ahead and move this over here. High chance of attack plus 70% and of stunning all enemies at the start of turn. So what I changed here was he got the 30% attack just like for existing. So essentially this Jiren was at 210% attack at the start of turn, which again, it's not like, it's not necessarily that, because I believe that 30% attack is factored in a little bit differently. But regardless, you know, you were guaranteed that extra 30%. Where here, it's not necessarily the case. So you can get up to, again, 210% attack, but there's a chance of it happening now. But it's a high chance. So when you enter the turn and you see all enemies are stunned, that means the attack itself has also activated. And if the warding doesn't necessarily mean that, then that's the intention I want to come across. Like, that's the intention of the way I built the CZA. I want it so that when one activates, the other activates, essentially, right? So 3 key, 140% to stats, high chance of attack plus 70%, and of stunning all enemies at start of turn, which of course is really, it's this high chance of, in and of itself just makes, I think, this concept just better. But again, in the modes that it actually has relevance in. Performs a critical hit on stunned enemies, cool. 2 key and defense plus 70% when there's another tournament participants category ally on the team, plus an additional 2 key and defense plus 70% when there's another tournament participants category ally attacking in the same turn. So all you need is 1 tournament participants category ally for this Jiren to get an additional 4 key and 140% to defense, right? So we're looking at 280% to defense for this Jiren here, which, by the way, this Jiren is not even touching that, right? And just to show you the difference, this is Universe 11, right? And this is tournament participants, okay? Like, imagine you pairing this man up with this guy, who now, with the ZZA, is giving, what is it? All allies 3 key defense plus 60%? Like, come on now. Like, come on now. You see, like, all of a sudden, this guy has access to a lot of really strong and powerful. We're talking about a plethora of really strong and powerful characters, including now one of the best TWARs in the game in Android 17 and Android 18, right? So again, like, this is definitely 100. It's a lot easier to build a team for an event that's a lot more difficult with tournament participants instead of Universe 11. So, 4 key. It's essentially, you're essentially at 7 key and 280% to defense. Just with having another good unit on your team. Again, it's very easy. Reduces damage received by 30% for 5 turns, and performs an additional super attack when facing a Realm of Gods category enemy. So Realm of Gods, of course, was like it just on there specific because he faced Evolution Blue Vegeta, right, or just Vegeta. He faced Blue Goku and UI Goku. So I mean that's just, it makes sense there. And I also wanted to give you, when I say you, I'm saying you, yes, you watching this video, reason to run him in one of the newest red zones. So if I pull up Realm of Gods, right, any enemy that you see here that exists in the game, like for example Fusion Zamasu, this character will now again have 30% damage reduction on top of 280% to defense, and greatly raising their own defense, which of course you're going to be performing a guaranteed additional anyway. So if this Jiren is in the first slot, with of course another tournament participant category ally on the team, or just literally on the turn, this character is greatly raising their defense twice, 280% to defense, and then of course a 30% damage reduction with 2 attacks and 7 key. I mean, I think this character is looking pretty good. And remember that, let's say if you're in an event where you can't stun the enemy, it doesn't mean that the attack still can't proc either, right? So if you're in an event where, let's say it's like one of these red zones or whatever the case is, where the enemy just cancels the ability to be stunned, that's fine, but your high chance of attack plus 70%, it can definitely still work. And of course the reason why I gave him 70% attack but the ability to get 140% defense from his kit is because he has this and this, right? Like, I wanted to give him a way to get an extra 70% attack somewhere here, but I think just guaranteed crits plus guaranteed additional, which isn't really too hard to proc, right? And granted, Realm of Gods is one of the harder SBR or ESBR stages in the game, so it's like, or not the hardest one, but definitely one of the higher tier difficulty stages. So I think this is a really powerful, plus you're stacking attack as well, so it's like this character has a lot of ways to look good offensively. So I wanted to give him just a little slightly more focused defensively, which is where the extra 70% defense comes from, and of course the 30% damage reduction. So let me know what you think about these concepts here. I think if this Jiren were to get good buffs with tournament participants category allies, I think we're in for a treat, because there's just so many, not only units on this category, but good units on this category. And granted, right, this is tournament participants, is not just like Universe Rival Saga. This is tournament from all of Dragon Ball. So you have Cell here, right? It just allows, Bojack is here, right? Although actually is is Trunks on here as well? We don't have a Bardock. What am I talking about? I'm actually surprised that we don't have a Trunks from the Bojack movie. I just realized that. But yeah, Piccolo Jr., Bojack, all these TNs, like the Cell Saga essentially, and then the recent Goku and Piccolo Jr., like every tournament that's ever existed, this Jiren will, again, it's just more team building for this Jiren. So again, let me know what you think. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and peace.